I do want to ask you something, but I think a lot of that comes from just what I was talking about. Like, I think Christianity, with the mistake that we've made in Christianity, in my opinion, is we've gone away from culture. And what happened with people who have values that are different than us, again, I don't like to just frame it in terms of left and right, but just for the sake of a better word.
Yeah.
People who have left-leaning values have engaged culture, and Christianity have pulled away from culture. And it comes down to this. Do you agree with that? It comes down
100%.
to, it comes down to this, I'll fly away, oh glory, kind of Christianity, Jesus is coming back anytime soon. And we haven't thought down the road, okay, what the impacts that this is going to have. And I think that's really important. There was a video, I don't know if you've ever heard of Craig Rochelle, but he pastors one of the largest churches in America. I could bet he probably the top 10. And the name of his church is Life Church, I think .tv or something like that. And a lot of people were criticizing him because he was on now I guess the metaverses. I don't know. He was on some sort of thing using that to communicate the gospel. So I'd be curious, since you're involved in technology and stuff like that. I mean, what your thoughts on all that is in regards specifically to Christianity and how
I did see something about a church in the metaverse or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's probably the same thing we're talking about.
To show you how crazy I am, how involved I'm not involved. I didn't even know that was up and going yet. I guess it is. I mean,
not technically.
So I don't even know how he was doing that. But do you think that that's an avenue in which, if it takes off, first of all, do you think it'll take off?
Yes.
Like Facebook, Twitter, social media in general did?
Technically, yes. I mean, this is a completely different area, and I'm not 100% informed on what the metaverse is entirely.
Yeah, I got you.
The metaverse is basically trying to create a open marketplace that's like the internet, but like virtually, if that makes sense.
Right.
So it's a place where everyone can be either in. You could implement VR into the metaverse. You could, and it's mostly using a lot of blockchain technology, since it makes everything non-fungible. And my NFT people will laugh at me for saying that way, but nothing can be duplicated. Right. So like it actually has its own technical value because it can't be just duplicated, and something that can't be duplicated online is kind of crazy.
Right.
So it's interesting how the church will approach that, but that's still probably like 5-7 years from now.
Okay. But nevertheless, if it does come to pass that it's a pretty popular thing, that'd be a good evangelistic
could be, yeah,
tool or platform for Christianity to use.
The current ways to do that would be things like Twitch, like YouTube, like Facebook.
Right.
They're the main gathering places on the internet right now. And you can go into darker holes on the internet like Reddit or 4chan or some of those other even more scarier ones. But they're still big gathering places on the internet where people are active and engaging. Because I was using Reddit since I stopped more recently, but I was using it since I was like 12 and 13. And it was amazing how much life knowledge, and it was probably more left informed, I guess politically or personality-wise, left informed information that I got at such a young age. Because you were mentioning how good they did that. I'm like, well, yeah, I mean, I saw that in my own life, seeing how much information I got. Luckily, we grew up in an age where we have to process information so much faster that I wasn't able just to be taken by it, and controlled by information.
Yeah.
Because there was barely any church there, any Christians in those spaces. Sort of Facebook, but I don't know. The church doesn't really know how to engage on Facebook.
Well, how could we do better? I'm serious. I'd like to know, like, what. So, as far as the only thing I see the church engaging on Facebook is like a live stream of their services on Sunday mornings.
And I'm not saying churches shouldn't live stream their services or anything like that. But this could be totally subjective. Okay, this is just me looking at it as I would look at any organization or doing anything online. It seems very self-advertising, if that makes sense. So like every church's post is like, hey, come Sunday, hey, show up Wednesday, hey, do this here with 100%. Us, like it. And not that people shouldn't go to church or do those events at churches, because they're always great, or I shouldn't say always great, but most of the time great. There's good people with good intentions trying to do good things with those events. But just from an outside looking in, someone trying to get you to do something with them or for them, seems self-advertising.
Yeah.
And and I think the church could shift their focus from the way they're doing social media to a more about you.
Right.
Because I mean, we're all, and this culture is very me, me, me. So I think if a church shifted it to more of a you thing, how
Yeah.
can we help you kind of thing, it would probably do a lot better online.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. I mean, Christianity has a tendency to take anything and just make it corny. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Hence Pure Flicks, or something like that. But I do think that, I think one of the mistakes, and I'm not up on all this as much as you are with the technology, but I will say, and this goes back to this, I hate to keep pushing the same thing that I'm pushing over and over again, but I think a lot of the times what Christianity does, and if we're not careful, we can think this way, and it comes back again to pulling away from culture, is that we think that that social media in itself is innately bad, inherently bad.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they thought that about TVs for a long time or anything. That's a mistake, I think.
My favorite argument against like that, what you're saying, is like social media is a tool.
Yeah.
A gun is a tool.
Right.
The gun isn't the thing doing the bad thing.
Yeah.
Social media is not the thing doing the bad thing.
Right.
It's the people feeding the algorithms.
Right.
It's the people holding the guns
Yeah.
that are doing the bad things.
Yeah.
It's not the tools, it's the people.
Yeah. And we never stop and ask the question, how could we use this to the glory of God? And if we wouldn't have pulled away from culture in the first place, maybe it wouldn't
be as hard right now.
Yeah, maybe it wouldn't be as hard right now. So
Well, if it was easy, then it wouldn't be worth doing.
Yeah. But anyway, back to I do think it is very important that we engage culture. I think that we engage culture by not being apologetic about our values. That's really important to me, because I think that that those who disagree with us are not apologetic about our values, about their values, and it shows in the fact that where culture is at today, that that you can just turn on anything, any television show. Even if you look at what's going on in Canada right now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they just passed a bill called Bill C-4 that outlaws any conversion therapy regarding homosexual tendencies or anything like that. Or if you're a male and think you're a girl, and if you're a pastor and you try to, have therapy with that person, then you could be, threatened with jail time. Maybe. So a point being, not that we need to talk about that. I'm just simply saying that this is the result of people who are unashamed of their values and engage in culture. And I think it's so important for Christianity. Again, we don't want to demean people. I would never want to demean people. We need to exhibit the fruit of the Holy Spirit and all of those things. But we need to be upfront about our values and engage culture with our values. Because at the end of the day, man, our values are just better.
Yeah.
I think. Or they're just better. Yeah. And because an atheistic or agnostic worldview can't account for morality in and of itself. I mean, what standard are they using to determine what is good and what is bad, for example? I mean, that's one of many issues. But
they mostly say it's subjective, but it's determined by society at large. But then you can't explain, like, Nazi Germany or
what
Mussolini
happens
in Russia.
What happens when there's a society that has deemed their values at large that totally disagree with ours?
Yeah.
Can you say objectively that their values are bad? And presumably not, because
if you're an honest atheist, yes, you will say there's nothing that can suggest it. But
you have no way. You have no way to account for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my point. It's just I think that we need to be upfront with our values, hold firm to our values. How we do that with engaging culture with like social media, the metaverse, all that stuff that I do understand, I'm not really sure, but nevertheless, I think we can start with the fact we're just standing on our values and standing firm with our values and not being apologetic